the 2005 tornado. Talk to me about that night.
I remember that night very clearly because it was a warm night. We knew the storms were coming in. We knew there were going to be, there was something was going to happen. What happened, nobody could have anticipated, and you know, it's something that has stuck with the tri-state to this day. And I was one of the first newspaper reporters on the scene. I remember getting a call from my editor. I was already preparing to come into the office, figuring, it was going to be a full out effort to cover this, saying that, I needed to head out to the trailer park where this tornado struck. And I immediately went out and I took the Veterans Memorial Parkway, I-164 out there, and got off on the Pollock exit. And it was chaos from that point on. There were cars. It was unbelievable the amount of people who responded to that scene to help, as well as relatives who, were there to find out what happened to their loved ones. But cars were parked just every which way. There were people running around. It was as if a bomb had exploded. And I remember they set up a kind of a triage point at the Newburgh boat ramp, or the Angel Mounds boat ramp. And nobody, of course, the victims, the people who lived in the trailer park, they didn't know that. And so there were these people who were, half dressed. A lot of them were still in their pajamas, and they were just stumbling out in a daze, up towards Pollock Avenue. And then they were being sent to have to walk down Lynn Road all the way back to the boat ramp. But, I can remember there was one guy, he was bleeding from the head pretty profusely. And he was obsessed with an injury on his arm. And, and someone was trying to get him to pay attention to his head. And I don't think he had any idea that he even had a head injury. And I mean, that's the kind of trauma that was inflicted here. And, that level of damage, I think, was really eye-opening in a way to me. I've lived through some small tornadoes and, covered tornadoes and floods and natural disasters in the past. But, that was really eye-opening to see that up close. And then to see how far the damage extended. There were homes in Newburgh, in some of the newer housing subdivisions in Newburgh, that were just piles of bricks. They literally, were just piles. And, it was just, I could only imagine what it would be like to find your home had been completely destroyed. And, every time I see this on TV now, when there's tornadoes in Arkansas or Oklahoma or Alabama, you can't help but think back to what happened here and really feel for these people.
What was it like when the sun started to come up and people could really see what had happened? Because, I mean, it was obviously very dark at first, and then the full scope, I'm sure, didn't come out until you could see.
Yeah, it was breathtaking, I think, in a way, to stand out on the I-164 overpass and just look out over the trailer park and see the extent of the damage. I mean, it was leveled. It was just a field of debris, and it was just astounding. And then I remember driving around trying to get a handle on the damage farther north, as and how far the tornado's path stretched. And I remember, being unable to cross so many roads because of power lines that were down and trees that were down and so forth. But the damage just went on and on. And this tornado went all the way to Tennyson, Indiana, and it killed families near Boonville, and it was just killed a girl south of Boonville, and then a family between Tennyson and Boonville and Deconia Springs, and it was tragic.